back to the Daily Grind. Thanks for checking out the channel. Make sure to hit subscribe if you're new and hit thumbs up if you're not a baby back pickle biting bitch boy, cause you know what time it is. It's full time.
MMA.
UFC President Dana White, El Jefe, is shutting down any possibilities of Nate Diaz saving the UFC 222 pay-per-view, saying Nate Diaz doesn't want to fight. He's turned down over 5 or 6 fights in the last 6 months. He's turned down fights with Eddie Alvarez, Justin Gaethje, Edson Barboza, and Tony Ferguson multiple times. Keep in mind, he also was offered a title shot in any weight class he wanted. Nate Diaz said himself he had the opportunity to fight Tony Ferguson, whether for the undisputed or interim title, as well as Tyron Woodley for the welterweight title. Any weight class, any title fight, whatever we got to do to get Nate Diaz back in the octagon, the UFC has offered. Nate Diaz turned it down every time, even suggesting that he would move to another sport, if you recall. He said, I'm sick of none of these guys are exciting me, off to another sport, boxing emojis. So we thought Nate Diaz might try his hand at boxing like Conor McGregor. And then, most recently, Nate Diaz himself came out and said, I'm sick of waiting on all these guys. I'm coming back in May or June. So it's like, okay, so you're not going to boxing, you're coming back to the UFC. There's just been so much stuff going on with Nate Diaz's name since UFC 202. Nate Diaz hasn't fought since before Conor McGregor, Ronda Rousey. Conor McGregor fought at UFC 205 versus Eddie Alvarez when he got the belt, and then even went on to fight Floyd Mayweather. Ronda Rousey fought at UFC 207. Hell, she's even had another WWE match since Nate Diaz has fought. So Nate Diaz has been through bike season. I think we're coming back up on the next bike season, and he's given his fans and all of us multiple excuses for why he hasn't took a fight, whether it's bike season, whether it's because you want to try boxing, whether it's, you know, there's just so many reasons. So that's all I can come to this. I believe Dana White whenever he says Nate Diaz doesn't want to fight. Nate Diaz is waiting on the Conor McGregor fight, and that's fine. I wish he would just come out and say it, but I guess he's trying to keep his name relevant. That's the only thing I can think of. Isn't that what Floyd Mayweather's doing? Hell, you got Floyd Mayweather stepping into a goddamn MMA octagon to keep his name relevant for the Conor McGregor rematch. That, you know, if you can't just go a year in silence and nobody talking about you, or no one's gonna, you know, your Conor McGregor match isn't gonna be that big. So that's all I can come up with. I don't understand why Nate Diaz is saying, you know, all of these different reasons. The only thing that makes sense is he's trying to keep his name relevant until he gets the Conor McGregor trilogy. Because even if you think about UFC 222, him saying he wants to save it, according to Lance Bugmeyer of the LA Times, Nate Diaz said he 100% wants to save the card. And you can just, you know, imagine Nate Diaz sending him that 100 emoji back. Like, hey, Nate, you interested in saving UFC 222? 100. And he just took, you know, wrote the headline. But that doesn't say much from Nate Diaz. He fucking writes that 100 emoji on. No, I mean, he writes that thing all the time. But it's not like, yeah, I'm really interested in UFC 222. Because who would he fight? It wouldn't be Tony Ferguson. He's about to fight Khabib. So who are you going to fight? Kevin Lee on short notice? No. What are you going to do? You're going to come back to 170 out of nowhere now that the champion's injured when you had a title shot? There's nobody for Nate Diaz to fight at UFC 222. Nate Diaz and Conor McGregor come together on short notice at 222? Fuck no. The only person that actually did suggest they would fight Nate Diaz at UFC 222 was Cub Swanson. He was like, look, they was like, Nate Diaz versus Cub Swanson, save the pay-per-view. Literally, there's no one else for Nate Diaz to fight except maybe Cub Swanson. He would have to, like, come up from featherweight, which he would do, I'm sure. Cub Swanson's like, I'm down, but come on, Nate Diaz isn't going to fight Cub Swanson, I don't think. I mean, it would be interesting if he took the fight with Cub Swanson after all of these other fights that he's allegedly turned down, according to Dana White. So, with that being said, man, Dana White shut down the possibilities of Nate Diaz fighting at UFC 222. I think this is just another play by Nate Diaz and his team, who I don't know if it's him or his team, but, you know, clearly he's got a management team or somebody behind him that's pretty fucking smart, because like Floyd Mayweather, he's just keeping his name relevant until Conor McGregor decides to choose you. And we don't know who Conor's going to come back and fight. Nate Diaz, Floyd Mayweather, Tony and Khabib. Most likely, Khabib or Nate. Most likely Nate Diaz or Floyd Mayweather. So both of those guys are keeping their name relevant until Conor comes back and picks one of them. That's all I can think, because Nate Diaz has talked about leaving the sport, coming back in May or June, saving UFC 222, and nothing has ever came to fruition. So with that being said, it is what it is. Let the full-time family know what you think in the comments. I'm out.
da da. It's the motherfucking D-O-double-G.